All right. We are live now, Joy. I'm gonna have you do this outside, but we're live.
Hello, welcome everyone. It is Tuesday, and you are going to be talking to the three Money Amigos, or two of the three Money Amigos today. My name is Joy Fishtrunk of Premier Group. We're a CPA firm in the Washington, D.C. area that works with small business or just business owners in general on their audit, tax, and any compliance needs that you have. I have with me today Beverly Winstead, who is the IRS help attorney.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing. I think I'm gonna have to buy some new equipment, which I think we're gonna talk about today because you got this idle loan and the eligible uses. But yeah, I'm Beverly Winstead. I am known as the IRS help attorney, and I help people that have problems with the IRS. Whether you're going through an audit or you owe IRS a bunch of money, or you feel like you're being treated unfairly by the IRS and want to go into court and sue, we do all that. So good discussion today, but I know we have one more member who isn't here, Brent Simpson with Invest in Education Academy, also known as IEA. And we're happy to be here. So let's talk about these Chrisleys, because I know, Joy, you have a habit of, and I appreciate it, because I go to bed early. I'm normally in the bed by 9-10 o'clock at night, but I wake up sometimes around 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I've gotten a text from you at 12:38 or 12:51. It's like, I'm like, is she up? What is the breaking news? And I saw this text come in from you about the Chrisleys. And I watched the Chrisleys, for those of you who don't know Todd Chrisley, and I don't remember his wife's name.
Todd and Julie Christie.
Oh, Julie Christie, yeah. So I know I had been following this trial actually loosely, not really closely, but I knew they were on trial for tax evasion. So you just want to share a little bit about the article, Joy?
Sure. I mean, well, they were on trial for tax evasion, and they were actually convicted. And what convicted them was his business partner. It was pretty salacious. He said they were having an affair, and it sounds like once he kicked his partner out of the business, he got angry. That part is not verifiable. That's just was testimony. So, it's hearsay at this point. We don't, it's he said, she said. But what the partner did, which is why you always need to be careful. We always talk about who's in your circle. He went to the IRS and the feds and got him a deal, because he now probably has a whistleblower claim where he got immunity from his portion of what happened. And he said that they committed tax evasion on mortgage applications and on various bank loans. And because of this, they have now been convicted of tax evasion and fraud. So they have multiple charges, and they are going to jail. We don't know how long yet, because they haven't been sentenced yet per se, but they are going to jail.
Yeah, I know they face up to 30 years in prison, and I do believe they're going to get some jail time. It's funny because one of my mentors, he's since passed on, but he used to head IRS criminal investigation division. Mm-hmm. And his name was Robert Thomas. Actually, one of the first the first, not even one, the first person, commissioner to head CID. And I remember him telling me when that it's normally people the closest to you that in the alerting IRS, you want to know, how does IRS know that this is happening? Mm-hmm. It's normally a wife or ex-wife or ex-girlfriend, a scorned lover, normally. So when you watch like these TV shows, a lot of times it's someone who's very close to you that will go and, basically give IRS the heads up that, hey, this is what happened.
And that's what starts the investigation, because I am sure, so just like anybody else, the IRS is trying to match up details. And we've talked about this before, about how they don't usually go after people with money unless they know for sure, or at least they have good intel, because it costs them more to do this trial. This trial probably cost them a couple $100,000. So they don't go after people unless they're certain, for the most part, that they can get something out of it, and that the benefit is going to outweigh the cost to them. And so if the ex-boyfriend, if you will, hadn't said any, or ex-lover hadn't said anything, he probably would have flown under the radar and maybe gotten a little something here or there, maybe a tax bill from the IRS. But because it was so big, and because there was mortgage fraud, and because he now, minimized his income, what he did was he minimized his income on his tax return. But then when he did these mortgage applications, he inflated his income. So everything, and he actually created a false document tail, because he'd have one tax return that he was given to the banks, and then another one that he was actually given to the IRS. And so all of these things combined cause you to be hit with all of these charges, and all of it was to live a certain lifestyle, basically, at the end of the day. Because when you watch the show, I watch the show, they present as a pretty wholesome family, but who knew that behind the scenes you were doing all of this stuff?
Yeah, and the thing about financial crimes is that it's hard to say you didn't do it when there's historical records, right? IRS can always pull bank accounts. They can always pull applications, right? And see if what you put on an application match the data. Which actually brings me into, I was just watching a video on EIDL and how you can use EIDL. That's the economic injury disaster loan. A lot of the pandemic stuff that came out with PPP and EIDL, people are getting prosecuted now or investigated for fraud. And I was watching the video because to me, it was good to get that refresher, right? To remember what you can use the money for and what you can't use the money for, and how you have to keep records. All this stuff is, anytime you get government money or just money in general, you're applying for mortgage applications, a lot of the stuff is, IRS has so many checks and balances in place that you don't even know about. You thinking you just applying for mortgage application or mortgage with the bank, but guess what? Even when you apply for that, the mortgage lender goes back to IRS and they request copies of your tax return transcripts, right? You can submit a tax return to the mortgage company and they take it. They will take it just to get the process started, but they're going to verify all that data with IRS. And if it don't match up, they're going to say, hey, why isn't this matching up?
Well, no, even one better. You can go through, and I think one of the things that people don't think about is you can get the loan and be on about your business and don't realize that 5, 7, 10 years later, because I think somebody in DC, if I remember correctly, I can't remember his name, the same kind of similar thing happened. He had reported one thing to the IRS, but then on the mortgage application, he had submitted more income. And so as a result, it didn't happen when he got the loan. It was 3, 4, 5 years later that it catches up with you. And it's the same thing with the EIDL and the PPP. None of this stuff is done. In fact, you all see that we're lingering around the outskirts of some type of recession. As money is less available, the government, all of them, federal, state, and local, start to really tighten their grip and start to look at how did you spend this money that we gave you 2, 3 years ago. So you think you done went on about your business, now you're on the straight and narrow. They will come after you at some point. And so it is better to, if I don't know, what are your thoughts on early reporting if people know that something wasn't right with what they did? It's probably better just to give it back or to get in some type of payment plan than it is to have them catch you. That's almost always the case.
So on this webinar that I was listening to today, and they even gave this a disclaimer that they are by no way the experts, but they do a lot of this work. And a lot of what they said was, look, if you're repaying your loan and you have good records, and even if you misuse it for 1 or 2 items because you weren't totally clear, and there is some ambiguity even in the loan agreement, because it doesn't really say, okay, everything is not going to be covered in terms of what is eligible and what isn't eligible, but if there's gray area in terms of your interpretation, right, then you might have a good argument and you may not be criminally liable. Maybe it would be a civil penalty, because the SBA can assess civil penalties 1.5 times of whatever the loan amount is that you got. So if you got a loan for $20,000 and you misappropriated maybe $10,000 of it, right? So that's $10,000 that was misappropriated. It sounds like the penalty can be up to $15,000.
Wow.
So
In
trust,
addition to the money you owe them back that you misspent. So that's a total of $25,000.
yeah, in addition to what you spent, I mean, what you took, so it would be $25,000, which is to me still a civil penalty. It's still way better than going to jail on something, right?
Always.
Yeah. And even for the Chrisleys, like for IRS, it's hard to prove a criminal tax case, right? They have to prove intent. So somebody had to testify that there was intent, like they intentionally inflated their income or took their deductions or overstated their deductions, right? And so that's what the score and lever came in, probably. Sure, that's what he testified. Hey, we had this plan. We were going to make all this money or buy all the additional real estate, because that's what he used the money for, the loans for, because he was the person that acquired all this real estate. And I loved watching their show.
Not only did they acquire a lot of real estate, they eventually even filed bankruptcy. That's where the other part of the defrauding the government comes in, because at one point they filed bankruptcy. So it's like, how could you be bankrupt, but you're still filling out these mortgage applications saying that you have X amount of dollars in the bank? Because one of the things that happens when you file bankruptcy is you have to tell them everything you have so that it's available for your creditors. So they misrepresented themselves. It appears they've been convicted of misrepresenting themselves all the way around. And so the score and lever actually was the linchpin to the federal case, because he knew where all the bodies were buried. And he was their accountant, by the way. He wasn't a CPA, but he was their accountant / bookkeeper at one point. So he had all the records that they didn't even have and couldn't produce. So I'm actually really surprised after hearing everything. I'm wondering why they didn't settle at an earlier stage in the case, knowing that there was this much. Maybe they thought they could sway public opinion because of who they were, and that they're likable people, but evidence is evidence. So.
And IRS is always looking to catch a big fish in a small pond, and they were a big fish.
Very good.
Doesn't mean they still won't, catch a small fish. I mean, I've represented clients in criminal tax cases, and I've also represented witnesses in criminal tax cases, right? And so you definitely want to be very careful. If the IRS is even contacting you about a criminal issue, you definitely want to have representation. That's one of the things I always say. You want to have representation.
You're right. So that's actually a good segue, because I think people think criminal, they think the police, they think I need a lawyer, but they don't necessarily think the IRS, I need representation. So that's actually what you're saying is very, very good information and very relevant. If you're contacted by the IRS for any reason and it's criminal, or they just show up at your door, you should be reaching. You shouldn't be just talking to them. You should definitely reach out. So make sure that not that you're doing anything wrong, but you don't want them to link you to a criminal case in any way, shape, or form.
I had to step back in because people come outside and start playing a lot of loud music, but that's okay. So, I mean, I'm just glad we had this conversation.
I am too.
I always like to share good information, and this information was so good and so juicy. 8 o'clock in the morning, you sent me the text at 12:38 that night, and I appreciate you always keeping me abreast of what's happening.
Well, no problem. Well, again, that's going to be our discussion for today. If you need accounting, audit, or tax work, you can reach me at 301-577-6444 or on our website, www.pgs-cpa.com, or Bev.
Yep, you can reach me at www.irshelpattorneys.com, or you can call the office at 301-306-1234. And I definitely want to take this time for everybody to thank everyone who wished me a happy birthday. I really appreciate it. And for those who text me, and I don't know, some of you guys actually may have DM'd me but I ended up getting my phone wet and I have not been able to recover the phone yet. I went out and bought me a new phone yesterday. So please forgive me if I did not respond to your messages because I'm the type of person where I always like to respond, because I know I don't take it for granted that you reach out to me and, at least wish me a happy birthday. I want to share Brent's information.
Yes, I was gonna say.
Yep, Brent, you can reach if you're interested in getting investment advice. Well, not advice, getting educated when it comes to the stock market, cryptocurrency, other unique investing opportunities. You can visit him at www.ieanow.com. Again, www.ieanow.com. And he's also found on Facebook.
All right, thank you guys. Have a great rest of your day.
All right.
Bye-bye.